Good morning, guys. Everything new under the sun. I want to talk to you today about running my camper off-grid using Makita batteries. That's right. I want to use Makita batteries to power my Airstream, my 1965 Airstream, and I've got some really cool ideas. So I thought you guys would like to follow along and see what I'm doing. So recently, I got a couple new batteries for my Makita tool set. These are kind of a necessity in this day and age for the home fixer-upper. You need some power tools, and I had a 2 amp hour battery, and it was pretty much used up and dead. So I got a really good deal on these official 4 amp hour Makita batteries. So I got two of them, so 8 amp hours total, if you will. And I've also been looking for batteries. I mean, batteries are the weakest part of the off-grid solar system, and they're the kind of the most expensive part. So if you want to get lithium-ion batteries, you got to spend like $1,000 to get like one really decent battery with the amp hours enough to be usable in a camper. And so I was thinking of ways to get around it. Where can I find cheap lithium-ion batteries? What can I do to get them? I have an AGM currently in my camper, but you can't drain that down. You can only do about 30, max 50%, and you're already wrecking your battery at that point. Whereas lithium-ion, not you guys, but you can cycle these things very deeply and get 2,000 cycles out of them. And if you don't drain them down all the way, you can get even more. And these Makita batteries, these are using kind of the top of the line lithium-ion cells, very heavy duty. These will last 6-7 years of heavy, hard use, discharging, etc. So it's kind of the perfect thing. And so I spent a bunch of money on these lithium-ion batteries. So I was thinking, how can I get lithium-ion batteries? And you know what? When I'm camping, I can actually make use of these batteries. Maybe I spent money on them. I might as well use them. And these are top quality lithium-ion batteries. So how can I integrate these into my off-grid camper? Now, of course, they're 18 volts, so you got to convert that somehow to 12 volt if you want to use these batteries on your 12 volt system with existing 12 volt batteries, with existing 12 volt solar charge controllers and panels, etc. So I think I've come up with a good idea how to do it. So here's my plan. What I'm going to do is mute that. What I'm going to do is I'm looking at a couple of different items that I need basically to make this work. Let me go to the shopping cart here. So what I've got here is I want to make a panel which will accept these 18 volt Makita batteries. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy these adapters. And I've used two of these adapters in the past for a couple of conversions. I've converted my Black & Decker 18 volt over to Makita, and I use these adapters. And I also converted a Hoover cordless vacuum over to Makita 18 volt, and I use this adapter again. So this is a 3-pack, so I could load these up with basically 3 of these and have basically 12 amp hours of super high quality lithium ion rechargeable battery storage. So 12 amp hours of that, which you can drain 100%. You wouldn't want to do that with your lead acid. So you get basically a solid 12 amp hours of usage out of these, where if you had a 12 amp hour lead acid battery, you may get a usable 4 or 5 amp hours out of it. So you get kind of 100% usable amp hours out of these batteries. And what I could do is over time I can add more of these adapters to my panel, to my wiring panel, and basically build these up so you can get 9 amp hour of these batteries. So if I had 3 of these and I had 3 9 amp hour batteries, well, that's 36. Is that 36? 18. That would be 4. 27 amp hours of high quality lithium ion batteries. And so, when these go dead, you can pull them out, fast charge them, and plug them back in and use them for your camper. So it's a great supplement storage bank using lithium ion, using batteries that I've already purchased, that I already use for my home repair, etc. When you're camping, you're likely not going to be using these guys, so what great opportunity to take them camping with you and use them as part of your power bank. So These are the adapters that I would wire together in parallel, so that I have 18 volts at, um, you just multiply the amp hours there. And then what you can do is you can get a DC to DC converter. So the question is, how do you get 18 volts down to a usable 12 volts? Well, what is really cool is you can get these step-down converters, and this is a 20 amp unit, and this will step down any voltage. You can input any voltage, and there's potentiometers on it, the little blue boxes in the corner, and so you can dial down how much what voltage you want to get out of it. So you give this unit anywhere between let's see, I think you give it anywhere between 8.5 volts to 50 volts, so 18 volts, and then you can dial it down via the potentiometers to 13 volts, for example, which is what you need for your 12 volt system. And then all of a sudden, this 18 volt Makita battery, along with two others potentially, all of a sudden are in the operating range of the rest of your 12 volt system. On top of that, then you can get this guy here, plug this in. This will run off the 13 volts regulated by that step down converter. And then you have a 12 volt socket, you have a 12 volt, you have USB chargers, you have a voltage meter, and you have a button which you could use to turn on and off, whatever the whole system, or turn off some other device. And so this converter, this particular converter that I'm looking at, is a 300 watt unit, 20 amp 300 watt step down. Here is the step down converter. So you can step it down from this particular one, 24 volts to 12 volts. But you can get ones, these units are basically infinitely adjustable with the two potentiometers on there. You can dial it up and dial it down to whatever voltage you want, and then just regulate how many amps you're pulling out of it. You can't get a huge amount of amps out of it. This one maxes at 20 amps. But that being said, as long as you're not trying to use a 2400 watt inverter off these guys, it's going to be absolutely fine. And as these batteries expire, as you buy new batteries, you can simply plug in new Makita batteries as the capacity gets larger, 6 amp hour, 10 amp, 9 amp hour. They have 9 amp hour aftermarket batteries now. You could just buy those and plug them right in to this unit, and you can also expand your set simply by soldering in more of these adapters. So it's really expandable. It's really a cool way to use your batteries. Instead of having batteries that sit in your camper for 9 months of the year or even longer without being used, now you can use your power tool batteries only when you need them. So you plug them into your camper when you need them. The other thing I'm going to do is probably leave the AGM in there. I have a 90 amp hour AGM battery, and go to here's a shopping cart here. I'm just looking at this situation. So this would cost me about $75 worth of parts to get something like this set up, and then this setup would supplement my existing AGM 90 amp hour battery. So effectively, these batteries in parallel, 13 volts with the 90 amp hour AGM, in theory should basically give me, well, if I have two of these 4 amp hour batteries, I would have 98 amp hours of usage, but I'd be able to drain these a lot more, and I could separate the systems to drain these right down if I wanted to get the full amp hour batteries, full amp hour usage out of them, and then leave the AGM for the rest, like year round, to continue charging so that the system always had power. And then when I go camping, simply add these to the mix, to the battery mix, and convert them. Now you ask, how do you charge them though? If you're camping and you've got these guys plugged in, how do you charge them? This is where this cool little MPPT charge controller comes in. And this is a unit that I didn't think I had a use for, but this is a boost MPPT charge controller. So this will take a certain voltage, say 18 volts coming in from solar panel, and boost it up to 20, 30, 40, I think all the way up to 60 amps. So it's a solar charge controller. So you plug in your solar panels, wherever you plug in your solar panels up here, and then you can adjust the voltage infinitely to whatever your battery make is. So now I can solar charge my 18-volt Makita batteries, which you would charge at about the 20-volt range, from my 18-volt, 12-volt solar panels. So it's a great way. I could charge these off-grid just to have a complete separate system and actually charge up my Makita batteries in this setup. Simply wire it in, and I can start charging my Makita batteries with solar while I'm camping as well. So that saves you the need to, if you drain these, that you have to wait till you get home to charge them, or you have to carry along a Makita charger. So something to think about. This is a new project that I'm thinking about doing. Let me know what you think. I think it's a great way to make use of these batteries all year round. And when you go camping, if I paid big money for these high-quality lithium-ion batteries. The fact that I can't use them in my camper is a shame. So with this system, with the step-down converter, I can certainly do that. So I'm pretty excited about it. I think it'll work. I've seen nobody else doing this, but by way of purchasing components straight off eBay, I think this will absolutely work and kind of get the maximum usage out of my Makita batteries, and a system where I can interchange batteries going forward as well. So perfect off-grid situation, perfect prepper sort of configuration. And there you can see the parts total, about $75 US. I don't know what that is, but $50. Sorry, $75 Canadian, but $50 US, I would think. And you can play with these components. It's pretty much straight up. You connect these guys to your adapters. You solder in some wires to your adapters, all in parallel, going into the DC-DC converter, and then you can pull 12 volts out of them. And there's an efficiency loss there, and you can only pull about max 20 amps, and I wouldn't suggest you do that much through this, but you could pull 300 watts out of them at a time and have really nice deep cycling lithium-ion batteries that you already have. Make use of the batteries you already have for your power tools in your camper. So I'll leave it there, guys. I thought that was a great idea, and I want to show it to you guys, and it's probably be a project I'll be working on over the summer. So stay tuned. We'll see how it goes.